Welcome to Expats Like Us. When I quit my job and retired to Mexico, I was so looking forward to everything I associated with this part of the country. Great weather, great beaches, great food, and all the time I needed to enjoy it all. So I did. The first year was so exciting. We made so many friends and did so many things and had tons of new experiences. Going to the beach, drinking margaritas, trying new restaurants, navigating all the strange Mexican systems took up most of our time. The second year, however, I began to have some problems. To make a long story short, the beach wasn't new anymore. The margaritas didn't taste as good as they once did, and I was having increasing trouble sleeping at night. If you've ever experienced an extended period of insomnia, you know how awful that can be. I soon found out that what I was experiencing was more complicated than just insomnia. My guest for this episode is one of the people who helped me through this tough period. Doctora Navarro is a psychiatrist in Playa del Carmen. I am so excited she agreed to be on this podcast, and I hope my story and her advice can help other people who may be experiencing some of the same feelings that I had. I know it helped me. Following her interview, I will have a list of some mental health resources that are available in English for expats throughout Mexico. So stick around. Welcome to Expats Like Us, exploring the world of U.S. expat life in Mexico. In each episode, we'll meet new people and hear their personal stories. We'll also learn more about the expat life and get a few tips on everything from making your move to settling in and living your dream. Let's dive in. I'm your host, Bob Bussey. Today, I'm thrilled to be talking with psychiatrist Dr. Kitzia Ruiz Navarro. Dr. Kitzia lives and practices in Playa del Carmen. She's trained as a surgeon and holds degrees in affective and bipolar disorders and psychiatry from Ramon de la Fuente National Institute of Psychiatry. And she's certified by the Mexican Council of Psychiatry. Dr. Kitzia describes herself as proudly Mexican, originally from Mexico City, and happily from Playa del Carmen. She's also a leader and a fighter for social issues. I met Dr. Kitzia after experiencing chronic sleeplessness, which turned out to be a symptom of depression in my case. Thank you, Dr. Kitzia, and welcome to Expats Like Us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So tell me what first interested you in a career as a psychiatrist.
There's something in humans that make us being us and no one else. And it's not the brain, it's not the heart, it's not our background. And since the beginning, I had a lot of interesting to understand what was that. Unfortunately, by the time passed, I understood that there is no answer with that. Mm-hmm. But the mystery of the brain, it's something that makes me wake up every morning and do my job and that's it. I always say that the mind is like the universe, a big universe, and we only know like a star that we can see with a telescope, and that's it. Right. So there are a lot of things to research, to understand, and every day is something new in my practice, and that's what I like a lot about psychiatry.
Cool. So how long have you been practicing?
Like about 18 years.
Oh, okay.
Yes, wow, a lot of years. A lot of years.
And there's still just as much mystery involved in the human mind as there was when you started.
Yes, by the more I know, the less I think I know.
So Playa del Carmen, where you practice, and it's nearby where I live, it's a relatively young international city with residents from all over the world living here. Do you find that this environment lends itself to any mental health issues that may not be so prevalent in other places?
Yes, Playa del Carmen has something very peculiar, and it's different. I always say that there is Mexico and Playa del Carmen, or Mexico and Quintana Roo. Quintana Roo is a place that was built by immigrants, not only international immigrants, also by people of other places of Mexico. So it's very difficult to find a sense of community here.
Right.
And most of people arrive here alone. And loneliness is something that by sure, it's like a risk factor for mental disorders. So it's not easy to get used and to get involved and make this community that at the end, we need to have community. So yes, people can struggle a lot by the time they arrive here, especially after certain months.
Yeah. I've never thought about that, but this area, it's a young place. Basically, the Quintana Roo became a state in the 70s sometime. So there's nobody that has 5 generations of family and support structure here. I've
No.
never thought of that before.
And Playa, it's a place that people comes and goes. Like they can
Yeah.
come, work, stay like a couple of months, and then leave, and they
Yeah.
go to a different place. So that it's a very unstable place to
Right.
settle. Mhm.
Right. So describe your clientele. Are they primarily immigrants from other countries? Are they native Mexicans, or is it a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. Some days and it's something I like a lot of my job because some days I only see Mexican, but other days I can begin with the Russian and then with the Spanish and then with the Italian and then with the Chinese. So it's very interesting. At the end, Playa, it's a very multicultural, very cosmopolitan city. So I see people from almost all the world.
Right.
So So there is no difference between being a foreign immigrant, like
Mhm.
coming from USA or Canada, and coming from Mexico City or Monterrey. At the end, it's an immigrant here.
Right. Right.
Mm.
I've never thought about that. I look from being only here for 3 years now. I look and say, oh, this person is a native here, but not many people are. Yeah.
No, actually, I'm an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. I have been 12 years living here. I'm from
Yeah.
Mexico City. So yes, we're
Okay.
everybody's immigrant.
Yep. Okay. So I've heard that there are some problems or disorders that anyone can suffer from, but maybe they're more prevalent in the expat or immigrant population. And why is this? You might have touched on that. Is the support structure?
Yes, like according to the city and coming to a new place or with a different language, different culture, I think that anxiety and adaptive disorders are
Hmm.
some of the things that I see the most.
Hmm.
Like all this, um, I mean, not depression, not anxiety, but is the stress about coming to a new place with new
Hmm.
people, with new job, with new culture, and there is not like a different prevalence from other places in the world, actually. Like we
Hmm.
know that anxiety and depression are the most common
Hmm.
psychiatry disorders in the world. So
So when you say adaptive disorders, I guess I didn't know that term really. That's when you have a major change in life. Is that what
when you
that
have a
is?
major change, exactly, you have a major change in your life and you can have symptoms that are compatible with a depression or with an anxiety disorder, but they are not as intense to give medication or they don't interfere in your functionality as a depression or anxiety disorder can do. So
Okay. Well, everybody that we talk to on this podcast has adapted to some big changes in their life,
yes,
and mostly just in the last few years. So,
yes, especially when you come here to a new place and you begin your retirement. Because
right.
not only moving to a new place, it's also that
It's a double
suddenly,
change. It's your
yeah,
work
from
life
one day
changes
to
and your
another.
home changes. Yeah.
Exactly. From one day to another, you stop with your routine of 25, 30 years.
Hmm.
And the first months, I always say that it's like a honeymoon. It's
Hmm.
like you're in the place, you dream all your life, you have the beach, you have the sun, you have a beautiful weather. And by the months passes, it's like, and now what?
Yep.
So it's very easy to lose the purpose in the days.
Right.
And that's a risk factor for depression and anxiety. It's like,
Right.
now what am I going to do?
I remember you very well telling me the exact words, the honeymoon is over.
Yes. And it's when we began to see anxiety, depression, and Another thing that it's very common here, especially after retirement, is like alcohol abuse also.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause you can begin the party at 11 in the morning and end at 2 a.m. in the morning,
Yeah.
like because you feel that you're in vacation.
Yeah.
So it's very easy also to get involved with alcohol. And
Right.
it's another thing that I see a lot, like a lot of alcohol abuse.
I bet there's, and yeah, I I see it too. I'm just I'm not a psychiatrist, but I can diagnose it, in my
Yes.
head I can.
Yes.
So I know that there are people who move here that begin to feel what they may describe as anxiety. Can you describe what anxiety is, where it comes from, and what it feels like? And what's the difference between anxiety and depression?
I have a very short, long story to describe anxiety. Anxiety is like living in a hurry with a feeling that someone is behind you, that you need to end things very fast, and with a feeling uh, that you are forgetting to do something,
Mm-hmm.
like being worried about almost everything and also small things. And you're not able to focus in one situation. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's anxiety or that's living with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with anxiety is that we get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone
Like
that lives
some
with
people have anxiety their
crazy
whole
symptoms.
lives
Exactly, exactly. And
because
we
they
would
are going to the next thing. And
yes,
yeah.
and we get used to live like that
Mhm.
until something changes in our body and we began to struggle in our
Mhm.
days. We lose our functionality.
Yeah.
For example, with panic attacks, or we're not able to sleep. And if we don't sleep, by sure we are going to be or going to feel terrible the next day.
Right.
If we have like a lot of nights without sleeping, I mean, life can be a disaster. Or
Right.
you stop eating, or you are so irritable that you don't want to be with anyone, or you're just fighting
Yeah.
with everybody everywhere. Like those are the most common symptoms of anxiety. Also, like being worried about small things. It's
Hmm.
like, I need to go and pay my CFE bill and
Hmm.
go into the bank and pay the bill. It's like something extremely big. It's like we began to see things bigger than they are.
Hmm.
We are thinking all the time in the worst scenario in the future. We feel that we can think what other people is thinking, or we take things very personal. Like
Right.
that's anxiety, like in general.
I think as an immigrant, there's an additional factor that goes with that. Like I have to go pay my CFE bill, but I don't know Spanish, you know?
Exactly.
And the things that we talked about on this podcast with people about things they have to adapt to, that's one of the main things is paying your bills and doing that sort of thing, and the bureaucracy that you deal with the government and everything. It's extra hard for immigrants because they don't know the language.
And let me explain you something.
Yeah.
Don't feel so bad because also as a Mexican, when we arrive here, are very difficult things. I
Yeah.
mean, Quintana Roo works very different than other city in Mexico.
Yes.
As you said, there is a lot of bureaucracy, a
Yes.
lot of bureaucracy. And even though we speak Spanish, it's something difficult for us to get used to that. So,
Right.
yes.
I had a friend, we went to get our driver's licenses renewed the other day, and they started asking her questions about like a driving test. And it was in a dialect of Spanish. She's a native Spanish speaker, but she grew up in the United States, and it was in a dialect she didn't understand. And oh my God, that's some stress and anxiety right there.
Yes.
She did
Yes.
end up getting her license, but and they didn't ask me they knew better than to ask me questions in Spanish because that wouldn't have worked out at all.
Yes, this it's difficult. And as you said, it's like something more, I mean, you add like more stress.
Right, right. So I've heard that often people think they're suffering from anxiety, but maybe they're suffering from depression. What are the differences between the two, and what are some symptoms people might have that may be signs of either anxiety or depression, and what are the differences?
Most of the times, anxiety and depression comes in a combo.
Okay.
That's just how our brain works.
Mhm.
I already explained what anxiety is, but
Hmm.
when we
Right.
keep that levels of anxiety very high, in one moment we're going to begin feeling like sadness that it's there all the day, almost every day.
Hmm.
We don't have motivation. Um, we like you can eat more or eat less. You can also have sleep disturbances. You stop enjoying what you used to enjoy.
Hmm.
You abandon yourself. And in a very advanced moment, you can also have like suicidal thoughts.
Hmm.
And in the other hand, you can begin having like depression, and in certain moment, you're going to have some symptoms of anxiety.
Right. Right.
And the reason is how our brain works between adrenaline and serotonin and a lot of like more technical things that it's going to be a little bored, but most of the time they come together.
Would you say that would anxiety be maybe considered a precursor to depression? Something that,
Yes. Most of the time, if you don't have like the right treatment for
yeah.
anxiety, at a certain moment you're going to feel depression. And let me make a pause here. Like we are humans and we have emotions and we can have good days and bad days.
Hmm.
And we can have griefs and we can have like stressful situations that in certain moments we're going to feel sad, but feeling sadness is not depression. I mean,
Hmm.
depression also comes with other symptoms. And as the same as anxiety, when we are not able to do the things that we need to do, when our functionality gets like damaged, it's when we talk about depression, not
Right.
only sadness. Sadness is not enough.
Right. In my personal situation, my main symptom that brought my attention to anything was insomnia. I couldn't sleep. And it's like you just said, you go a night without sleeping, it's a problem, but you go a whole bunch of nights without sleeping, it is quite a thing to deal with, right? But the way I saw it, my lack of sleep was what was causing me anxiety, which was something I really didn't understand, until I talked to you and talked to doctors about it. I went to several medical doctors looking for something to help me sleep. I was looking for some kind of pill that would put me to sleep. And it didn't help. I didn't find anything like that. I didn't have any luck. And then one of them referred me to you. And it turns out that the underlying cause of my sleeplessness was actually a form of depression. So my experience with this is
Yes.
probably better than I do. But do you find that many of your clients go through that similar journey?
Yes, sleep disturbances is one of the
Okay.
first symptoms when our brain is not able to repair all the changes that we can have when we suffer from depression or anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And why we just pay attention to the sleep pattern? Because if we don't sleep, the next day we can feel terrible, not only mental, but also physical. So
Right.
most of the time we go to the doctor asking for something to sleep,
Right.
thinking in our fantasy that by the time we sleep, we can feel better. And
Right.
yes, but there are other symptoms that we need to take care about.
Right.
There are sleep disorders, like in psychiatry, or there are also psychiatrists that specialize just in sleep
Mm-hmm.
disorders, and it's another world inside psychiatry, but they are not as common as we think. Like when
Right.
we talk about insomnia, most of the time, insomnia, it's a symptom of anxiety and depression. A
Mm-hmm.
primary disorder of the sleep, it's not so common as we can think, but it's something we have or we can identify better than other symptoms that we can have when we have anxiety or depression.
Right, right. So in my case, treatment involved counseling and medication for about 6 months. It also involved finding a worthwhile purpose in my retirement, which actually is one of the key themes to this podcast that we're doing right now. We kind of talk we go in a roundabout fashion. We don't say, "Are you depressed?" But we say, "So what is your passion in life?" And that's what we try and encourage amongst expats. Um, so my symptoms eventually went away and I was back to my old self. And do you find this is the case with most of your clients?
No, No,
Oh,
you were
okay.
like a very good patient, and you followed the instructions, and you did what I suggested you to
Uh-huh.
do, and that's why you succeed so fast, and in a
Okay.
very short time period. Like you began paying attention to your sleep pattern, to your diet, making
Hmm.
exercise, going also to psychotherapy, and finally you got your purpose in this new uh in this new city, in new
Hmm.
circumstances, and that's why you succeed.
Yeah.
I hope everybody were like you.
Yeah. That would be the ultimate goal, right? Is to have more
Yes.
people that come through that on the other end looking
Believe it
good,
or
you know?
not, there is a lot of resistance to make changes.
Right.
Like remember that as humans we are always going to do what we know how, what we have been doing all our life.
Hmm.
But sometimes we forgot that we're in a different moment of our lives. And we're
Right.
still moving in the same direction, thinking that everything is going to change and it's just about time.
Right.
So it's very important to begin taking the risk to do the things different so you can have different results. And not
Mhm.
everybody can understand that so easily as you
Yeah.
did. That's why
Yeah.
you succeed so fast.
No, very good. Thank you. So, if someone thinks they're suffering from symptoms of anxiety or depression, where should they turn for help? What's the first thing they should do?
I think that any approach to a certificate medical health care, mental health care, it's like they can identify what you need. Like if you need to go to a psychiatrist or you need
Hmm.
just therapy or most of the time both of them. Like
Hmm.
what we need to be careful about living here is that you can find a psychologist in any corner of the city.
Hmm.
But you need to be sure that they have the right certifications.
Right. Right.
Because sometimes there's another thing like it's very peculiar from this place, and it's like something that I call the shanty shanty. Here you have, or you can find like a lot of magical thoughts about energy, about ayahuasca,
Yeah. Yeah.
about shamanes, like, and it's very common that people go there before coming to a
Right. They're
psychologist or a
looking for the
psychiatrist.
crystals to solve their problems rather than
Yes.
psychotherapy or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that I hear a lot every day is like, I'm coming here because you're my last option. I have done all the alternative
Yeah.
therapies, nothing worked. Like,
Yeah.
okay. So just go into a professional. It doesn't matter if it's psychologist or psychiatrist. If it's
Mhm.
something, it's if it's an ethical professionist, he or she can refer you to the treatment that you need.
Right. Okay. Very good. If you had advice for anyone thinking about retiring and moving to Mexico, like I did, I retired young. I retired earlier than most people retire. But if they're moving to Mexico or anywhere in the world for that matter, what would your advice be? And what are some things they may not be thinking about?
Okay, before talking about retire, I will give an advice. Don't forget to enjoy your life by the time your retirement comes.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately, I also see a lot of stories of people that their dream was like retire and coming here to Riviera Maya and achieving that goal. Mm, they they didn't pay attention to the health, to the family, to relationships, and now they are here in the place they wanted to be, but alone and sick.
Right.
Oh yes. Thinking of retirement, it's like it's perfect. I'm big plan about that, but don't forget to enjoy the road to go there.
Right.
That's my first advice. Don't forget to live every day. And once you retire, it's like we need to understand that at the end it's a grief. It's a different moment of our life. And when we have a grief, it's valid to feel what we need and what we want to feel.
Mhm.
We are not only like stop seeing our friends, our community of all our life. We're
Mhm.
also like moving to a new place. So we need to become passive with ourselves. So yes, we're going to feel sadness and sometimes we're going to be like very happy and sometimes we can cry and it's okay. It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. Right.
And live in that process. and give ourselves to close like that cycle of our work and productive life and begin something new. It's new. It's I always say that retirement is like going to school the first day of school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, you're starting
You
something brand new that
you
you don't even know what you're going to learn or what you're going to do yet. Yeah.
exactly. But as children, we are not so complicated and we are always open to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same attitude that we can have in the retirement. Like I'm going to let the life to surprise me, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be open to learn how this new adventure in life goes without pushing the things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, don't try to do what you used to do before your retirement.
Right. Right. I would agree with you, and I learned a lot from you, and you are one of my most admired people that I've met since I moved
Thank
here. I just want to say that.
thank you.
So one of the things that we do, we have a lighthearted tradition on this podcast, and we call it Que Padre, Que Malo, and it's like we ask our guests one thing that they love about living in this area, and they love about Mexico or Quintana Roo or whatever, and the other one is Que Malo, something that not necessarily that they hate, but something that they're still adapting to is the way that we like to say it. So could you give me a Que Padre and a Que Malo?
Okay, a que padre is that there's no traffic. Well, there is more than 12 years ago that I arrived here, but it's like I can go from one place to another without being hours in my car. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a que padre. And
Unlike Mexico City, right?
Mexico City, you can stay 3 hours in your car just going
Yeah,
from one place to another. So
yeah,
so that's a que padre. And a que malo, it's a very hard question.
yeah.
And I'm going to explain you why. I'm sure you want an answer from me, but if I just pay attention to the que malo, I'm not going to be able to enjoy the good things that I have here.
You won't be able to
I
enjoy the
know
Que
that,
Padre. See, yeah.
yes, yes. And I know that moving from Mexico City to here, there were a lot of things that I'm not going to have,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't have everything, at least not at the same time.
Right.
So maybe the que malo, it's like that cultural uh, life that you can have in Mexico City,
Mm-hmm.
like museums, theater, like concerts, like a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will be the que malo, but it's not so que malo.
Yeah.
Because I have other things here.
I
Like,
completely understand what you're saying because we used to love, plays and concerts and that kind of thing, and it's just not something that's here.
you cannot move to a new place, like thinking all the time in all the things you left
Right.
and in things you
Right.
don't have. If not,
Yep.
you're not going to be able to adapt to a new place. So yes, there are a lot of quemalos, but they are small quemalos. There are
Right.
more good things than bad things.
Right. I
That's my
would
opinion.
totally agree. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kitzia Ruiz Navarro, for sharing your insights with us on Expats Like Us.
Thank you to you. It was a pleasure to be here, and congratulations for this space and to
Thank you.
share experiences with other expats.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
From my personal experience, the best mental health care begins with your own medical doctor. That's how I was referred to Dr. Kitzia. It's a great place to start. Here's some more mental health resources available in English for expats in Mexico and around the world. Hola Therapy is a team of international and multidisciplinary therapists. They're based in Mexico City and work primarily with the international community. They offer therapy in English and Spanish. Their services include individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, and working with children and teens. They are an inclusive service as well, being LGBTQ plus friendly and welcome people from all walks of life. You can find them at holatherapy.mx. That's HOLA THERAPY.mx. BetterHelp, where you can tap into the world's largest network of credentialed and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety, relationships, trauma, grief, and more. With their therapists, you get the same professionalism and quality you would expect from an in-office therapist, but with the ability to communicate when and how you want. They're found at betterhelp.com. OnlineTherapy.com is based on cognitive behavioral therapy. They're a dedicated online-based team of consultants, therapists, cognitive behavioral therapists, practitioners, and support staff that work collaboratively to help people in need of emotional support. You can find them at OnlineTherapy.com. In each episode of Expats Like Us, we're going to teach you a new Mexican slang word. This is something you may not find in your phrasebook or your online Spanish class or your Spanish app or wherever you're learning your Spanish. Instead, this is a term used primarily by Mexican Spanish speakers. Today's word is
Naco.
naco. How do you spell that?
N-A-C-O.
N-A-C-O, naco. What does that mean?
Naco is basically a person who is not well educated, ghetto, clumsy, doesn't know what's going on.
Okay, very cool. Don't be a naco. Don't act like you're a naco.
Exactly.
All right, gracias to Erica Kowalski from Mi Vida Margarita. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Just look up Expats Like Us on Facebook or send us an email at expatslikeus@gmail.com. You can also see the video version of today's discussion and all of our discussions on our YouTube page. Follow, like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Thank you to today's guest, Dr. Kitzia Ruiz Navarro, for sharing her insight. Thanks also to Chris and Erica Kowalski and Sherry Bussey. Most of all, thank you for tuning in to Expats Like Us, and thank you for interacting with us on social media. Next time, we'll bring you more first-hand information about your international move. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, remember, our homes are not defined by geography or one particular location, but by memories, events, people, and places that span the globe.